You know what they're going to do before they do it. You've watched this enough times. The pull away, the silence, then the repair, the warm text, the conversation where everything feels possible again. You know the cycle. You've told your friends about it. You've told yourself about it at 2 a.m., and you're still there. Not because you're weak, not because you don't know better. You do know better. That's the part nobody gets. You can see it clearly, and you still can't make yourself leave. Here's what's actually running underneath that. The obvious explanation is love. You're holding on because the good parts are real. True, but people leave relationships they love all the time when the cost gets high enough. So why doesn't the cost get high enough here? The second explanation is self-esteem. You don't think you deserve better. Maybe. But plenty of people who do this are confident everywhere else in their life. Respected at work, the friend people come to for advice. The self-esteem explanation doesn't hold. The third one, the one everyone reaches for now, is trauma bonding. The hot and cold trains your nervous system to attach harder instead of pulling away. That one is real. That one is happening in your body. But it still doesn't explain why some part of you, underneath all the exhaustion, doesn't actually want to leave. That part, that's what I want to talk about. Jung had this idea about the shadow. Simple version. The shadow is the part of you that runs below the surface. Not the bad parts exactly, more like the unexamined parts, the beliefs you formed early, before you could question them. What love is, what you're worth, what to expect from people who are supposed to care about you. Most of the time you don't notice it, but then you get into a relationship with someone who hurts you. And something in the shadow recognizes it, something old, not as a threat, as home. The painful relationship isn't just happening to you. Part of you chose it, not consciously, not because you wanted to be hurt, but because the pattern it's running is a pattern your shadow already knows, one it formed around a much older experience, usually one that came before you were old enough to protect yourself from it. Think about what the hot and cold actually replicates, warmth that comes and goes without warning, repair that makes everything feel possible, the way you spend the calm moments quietly waiting for things to go wrong. Where did you first learn to do that? Most people in this pattern grew up somewhere that love felt exactly like this. Not necessarily bad, just unreliable. A parent who was warm sometimes and distant the rest, closeness that could be withdrawn, affection that felt like something you had to earn. The kid in that situation doesn't decide the love is bad. They decide they're not doing enough yet to make it stay. That belief goes into the shadow, and now you're an adult, and your nervous system has found someone who runs the exact same pattern. And the shadow says, I know this. I know the rules. That's why you can't leave. Leaving doesn't feel like protecting yourself. It feels like giving up on the only story that, if it ended differently, would finally mean you were enough. The hard part is this. The story can't end differently. Not with this person, not through this relationship, not because they're uniquely broken, because the story was never actually about them. They're standing in for someone else, someone from much earlier who also ran hot and cold, who also made love feel like a thing you had to earn. Your shadow put them in that role because they fit the pattern, and you've been trying, with real effort and real feeling, to get a different ending. But the ending was never theirs to give. The question that actually moves something isn't, why can't I leave? It's, what does staying let me keep believing? Because underneath all of it, there's usually a quiet belief the shadow is protecting, that if you could just get it right, the distance would close, that the reason it keeps going wrong is something specific to you, something you could fix. Leaving threatens that belief, because if you leave, you have to sit with something uncomfortable. What if trying harder was never going to fix it? What if no version of you, calmer, more patient, more loving, was going to make this person stay consistently? And if that's true, then the original story wasn't about your effort either. That's what the shadow doesn't want to know. And once you let yourself know it too, the grip starts to loosen. You're not still there because you're broken. You're still there because some part of you has been working seriously on a problem it formed before it knew how to ask for help. The feeling is real, the love is real, and it isn't enough to fix this. Because this was never actually about this relationship. The way out isn't leaving first. It's asking the question first. What am I trying to finish? What old story is this relationship still promising to resolve? Because once you can see the story, once it has a shape and a beginning, it starts to lose the grip it had when it was invisible. You don't have to have the answer tonight, But somewhere underneath the exhaustion, there's a part of you that already knows what the story is. That's the place to start. The relationship you can't leave. What does staying let you keep believing? Not about them, about you. You don't have to answer out loud, but if something came up when I asked it, that's worth sitting with. Next video, why you turn into a completely different person the moment a relationship gets real. Jung had a very specific name for it, and it's not attachment issues. Subscribe. We go deeper every week.